Welcome, the chosen ones. If you're here right now, it's not a coincidence. It's confirmation, divine confirmation. Something sacred brought you to this moment. And what you're about to hear will not only validate your journey, it will explain the warfare. It will explain the silence. It will explain why some people, despite all their effort to bury you, are now the ones crumbling in secret. You didn't just survive what they sent to destroy you. You turned it into the very thing that elevated you. And now, the atmosphere has shifted in your favor, and they feel it. Before we go deeper into this revelation, I want to pause and say thank you to every single person who has supported this channel through Super Thanks. Whether you've donated once or faithfully continue to sow into this mission, please know from the bottom of my heart, I am profoundly grateful. You're not just giving into content, you're investing into divine restoration, into spiritual truth, and into the very soil where chosen ones like you are being revived and elevated. And even if you haven't donated financially, your presence, your time, your comments, your shares, they all matter. They are all seeds, and I am thankful for each one of you. Now, chosen one, I need you to comment 777 below if your spirit is already vibrating with truth. That number is not random. It's a prophetic signal. 777 is the mark of divine completion, divina perfection, and divine confirmation. If you're ready to walk into the fullness of who you were, always meant to be, declare it now. Type 777 and agree with heaven. Because what just happened? Oh, it flipped everything. The same mouths that once doubted you, dismissed you, and degraded you, they're choking on your name in places you haven't even stepped into yet. Let that sink in. Let it marinate. The spiritual tables have turned so violently that even your enemies are disoriented. Something irreversible, divine, and invisibly seismic just erupted in the unseen realm, and the power structure they tried to build around your ruin has collapsed under its own hypocrisy. And here's the divine irony. The very people who cheered the loudest when you were low, who laughed while you were bleeding, are now privately Googling how to spiritually recover from watching someone they tried to ruin become the very sign and wonder God is using to wake others up. It's not just awkward anymore. It's devastating for them, because while they rehearsed your downfall, they accidentally helped stage your deliverance. Let me give you a truth bomb backed by science. Studies show that envy activates the same region of the brain associated with physical pain. That means somewhere right now, someone is literally feeling a headache with your name, spiritually carved into the source of their suffering. They don't understand how you made it. They thought they had buried you in such deep betrayal that nothing could rise again. But God, oh, God had other plans. And chosen one, this is not about revenge. This is not about ego. This is not your "I told you so" moment. This is bigger. This is cosmic. This is kingdom-level justice in motion. This is what happens when heaven interrupts the false story. Your enemies tried to write about you and replaces it with divine authorship. They thought they were watching your ending. But what they didn't realize, that betrayal, that mockery, that spiritual setup, wasn't your finale. It was the plot twist. So now they cry, not because they lost something, but because they accidentally participated in building the miracle they didn't want to see happen. God used their lies as fertilizer. He used their rejection as scaffolding. He used their silence as stage lights. And now the curtain has risen, and you're standing in the spotlight they tried to cut off. That's divine poetry. That's spiritual irony. That's why the chosen one always gets the last laugh. So let's unpack it. Let's break down why the same people who once stood against you are now standing in rooms trying to pretend they don't see your glow. Let's talk about why their tears are flowing behind closed doors, why your name haunts the very conversations where it used to be ridiculed. Because what just happened didn't just shift the atmosphere, it confirmed your anointing. And if you're ready to go there with me, if you're ready to peel back the layers and see just how powerfully God turned this around in your favor, stay right here. This is a sanctuary for the misunderstood, the misjudged, the underestimated, and the divinely protected. You belong here. Let's begin. God's chosen ones. Something massive just hit, and they're crying in secret. Number 1. They didn't expect you to outlive their curse. Chosen one. Let's not sugarcoat this. They never imagined you'd still be standing. In fact, they planned your downfall with precision. Behind their smiles were silent curses. Behind their polite greetings were whispered hexes and wicked rituals. What they orchestrated in shadows was meant to bury you completely. But here you are not only breathing but blossoming. How is it possible that someone who was written off, ridiculed, and spiritually ambushed could rise this boldly? Could it be that you were never the weak one after all? They didn't just doubt you, they invested in your destruction. They watched your life fall apart. And in that brokenness, they found comfort. It validated their illusions. But what they underestimated was the God who stands behind the chosen. They forgot that when God ordains someone, no curse, no weapon, no word spoken in bitterness can prosper. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue that rises against you, in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. They expected their curse to cripple you. Instead, it crowned you. Do you understand how threatening it is to your enemies that you healed so quietly and returned so powerfully? You didn't just bounce back, you were resurrected. And your resurrection didn't happen in the shadows. It happened in public. They're haunted not by your pain, but by your progress. Because your existence now becomes undeniable proof that their darkness couldn't stop the light that was placed inside you. What do people do when their greatest effort at harm becomes the loudest confirmation of your calling? Consider Oprah Winfrey. She was abused, rejected, and dismissed as a poor black girl from Mississippi. But she rose, not just financially, but spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. The very rejection that was supposed to break her became the foundation she stood on to change the world. Your life mirrors that testimony. You didn't just outlive the curse. They now live in the shadow of your triumph. They weren't just hoping you'd fail. They built identities on your failure. Your collapse was the story they repeated to feel better about their own emptiness. And now that you've risen, they're scrambling. Their narrative is falling apart. The version of you they sold to others no longer exists. Have you noticed how quiet some people have gotten? That's not peace, it's panic. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. While you were silently breaking, God was secretly building. He didn't just put you back together, He rewrote your spiritual DNA. That's why you're unrecognizable to them now. They look at you and wonder, how? But chosen one. The question they should ask is, who? Who protected you? Who fought for you when you couldn't fight? Who turned a grave into a gateway? Think of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, hated by his oppressors, and believed to be a political non-factor. Yet when he walked free, he didn't just emerge as a survivor, he emerged as a symbol, a world changer. That's what your survival feels like to those who cursed you. Your light exposed the limits of their darkness. And now, they're crying, but not tears of regret, tears of spiritual powerlessness, because what they sent out has returned to them sevenfold. You didn't just survive the poison, you turned it into purpose. You transmuted their sabotage into spiritual fuel. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. So ask yourself this: if their plan worked, where would you be? And if it didn't work, who stopped it? Look at Malala Yousafzai, a teenage girl targeted for simply wanting education, shot in the head. But she didn't die. She rose and went on to become a global voice for justice. That's the same kind of supernatural reversal happening in your life. Your presence is now proof. Proof that curses fade. Proof that God's favor doesn't. And proof that when you're chosen, resurrection is always the last word. They failed the test. Chosen one, not you. Because this was never just about you. You were the divine measure, the spiritual mirror, the prophetic test. And when they poured venom into your life, heaven watched quietly, not to abandon you, but to see who would pass the exam. Now the results are in. You're standing, they're sinking, and they know. If what happened to you had happened to them, they would have never made it. But God didn't choose them. He chose you. The righteous may fall 7 times, but still get up. Proverbs 24:16. And you didn't just get up. You elevated. You evolved. You outlived the curse. And now you carry the crown. Number 2. You became the proof that their power was always an illusion. Chosen one. There's something you must see clearly. Their power was never real. It just looked that way when you were wounded. You weren't weak. You were recovering. You weren't ignorant. You were observing. And now that your eyes are open, everything about them is crumbling. Isn't it strange how quickly illusions dissolve when truth walks into the room? These people, some of them, family, some spiritual leaders, some friends wielded manipulation like it was a sword. They distorted reality through charm, silence, and intimidation. They projected strength while hiding behind fear. But the moment you stepped into your divine identity, the spell broke. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. You didn't expose them with words. You exposed them with growth. Your transformation shattered their theater, because while they were acting powerful, you were becoming powerful. Can you feel the difference? You don't need control. You walk in truth. And truth, chosen one, doesn't scream, it just stands. And when it stands long enough, everything false begins to shake. Look at Britney Spears. For years, her image was controlled. Her power was masked by conservatorship. But the moment her voice returned, her real voice, people saw the truth. The illusion collapsed. That's exactly what's happening to those who once dictated your narrative. Now that you've reclaimed your voice, their foundation is shaking. You may not realize it, but your silence was holy. Your absence gave birth to mystery. Your comeback terrified them because it didn't ask for permission. Your very existence is confronting every lie they told. And while they once called you too sensitive, too much, or too spiritual, now those very traits are making you unstoppable. Nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. The masks are slipping, the performance is ending, and their applause is turning into whispers of fear. Take Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks. He came from a poor housing project. No privilege, no power, yet he reshaped the world of business because he believed in what he carried, not in how the world labeled him. That's the journey of a chosen one. You rise not through appearance, but through alignment. And now, those who once labeled you are being stripped of their labels. Why? Because your life has become the evidence. You didn't fight them, you surpassed them. You didn't argue, you evolved. You didn't destroy them, you outgrew them. And that, chosen one, is why they're trembling. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Their power was borrowed, yours is born. The energy they use to control others is fading, and the anointing you carry is undeniable. Your presence reveals their fraud, and that scares them more than anything, because now people are watching, eyes are opening, and the only thing louder than your truth is the silence of those who can no longer pretend. Look at Tyler Perry, mocked, rejected, living in a car, yet now he owns studios bigger than his critics' dreams. You, too, are entering your ownership era. You're not fighting for validation anymore. You're walking in manifestation. And every room that once tried to break you is now being redefined by your presence. So let me ask you, was their power ever real? Or was it your doubt that made them look bigger than they were? Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. John 4:4. Chosen one. Your light is not flickering, it's just getting started. And everything false will fall in its presence. Number 3. Their reputation is rotting from the inside out. Chosen one. It's finally happening, and you don't even have to lift a finger. The mask they've worn for years is starting to crack, and the image they so carefully polished is beginning to decay from the inside. At one time, they were adored. People couldn't see past the charm, the polished words, the staged compassion. They played the role of the saint so perfectly that even you began to question your discernment. How could someone so put together be capable of spiritual sabotage? But now, the illusion is bleeding. And here's the irony. They're not being exposed by a scandal or a dramatic blow-up. They're being exposed by whispers, by details, by energy, by silence. Have you noticed that sometimes the most powerful destruction doesn't come with explosions, but with erosion? For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Their carefully constructed lie is finally catching up with them, and you didn't have to say a word. That's the part haunting them most. Your growth became a mirror, your healing became a light, and now that you're shining, people are starting to question the darkness they once defended. Even their body language is betraying them. The fake smile doesn't land the same way. The charm feels like manipulation now. Their eyes look away when yours meet theirs. Why? Because the mask is slipping and your truth is standing tall. Look at the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the once celebrated CEO of Theranos. She was hailed as the next Steve Jobs. The world bought the image she projected. Confident, genius, revolutionary. But behind closed doors, she was selling lies. Eventually, reality caught up, and the quiet erosion of credibility began. Her reputation didn't collapse overnight. It rotted until the stench was undeniable. That's what's happening to your enemies now, and they can't stop it. Ask yourself, why are people suddenly pausing when they mention that person's name? Why are the same followers beginning to hesitate? The answer is simple. Your silence spoke louder than their speeches. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Proverbs 11:3. You never had to clap back, post receipts, or expose them. God handled it, and when God allows quiet exposure, it's more devastating than public drama, because it sinks slow and deep. Take Lance Armstrong. Once seen as an icon of strength and perseverance, people worshipped his story until the quiet unraveling of truth began. When it did, it wasn't just the facts that hurt, it was the realization that people were deceived for years. The public felt betrayed. That's what's beginning to happen with those who used your name for manipulation. They're breaking down. Chosen one. Not because of you, but because of the light you now carry. They feel the walls closing in. They feel the divine shift. And no PR strategy can save them from the spiritual consequence of what they sowed, even their apologies, if they come at all, feel hollow. Why? Because there's no anointing behind a rehearsed confession. They're not sorry, they're scared. Scared that people are catching on. Scared that the narrative is slipping through their fingers. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26:27. You were once the target of their manipulation. Now you've become the evidence of their spiritual decay. Remember Tiger Woods? His fall from grace wasn't caused by one scandal, but by the shattering of an illusion. He had the world fooled. But eventually, the truth always demands to be seen. Just like now, just like you. The quiet question that's spreading like wildfire, what really happened, is what they fear most. Because questions lead to suspicion, suspicion leads to discernment, and discernment leads to truth. And here's the real blow. Their reputation isn't just cracking, it's spiritually decomposing. That's why people feel uneasy in their presence without knowing why. The vibration is off. The spirit feels heavy. They carry the residue of deception. Let your light so shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. That's what you've been doing, shining without trying, glorifying God by simply existing in your healed, authentic self. And your light has become a silent investigation into everything they've tried to cover. They used to orchestrate every room. Now, they walk in and feel the shift. The eyes, the silence, the unspoken tension, and they know it's happening. Chosen one. Stay still. God is doing what only God can do, letting the fruit reveal the tree, one silent crack at a time. Number 4. They know God didn't just spare you, He chose you. You've felt it, haven't you? That electric shift in the spirit. That moment when everything they tried to deny about you became undeniable. Chosen one. This wasn't just survival. This was divine confirmation. And now, even your enemies feel it. God didn't just let you escape their attacks. He put His mark on you. They once told themselves that you got lucky, that maybe someone helped you, that you found a way out through coincidence. But now they're realizing coincidence doesn't part seas. Coincidence doesn't shut lions' mouths. Coincidence doesn't carry someone through betrayal, sabotage, and loss only to have them rise, shining. This was not coincidence. This was covenant. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. John 15:16. And the fruit in your life is now undeniable. When the opportunity came, one that was never supposed to open for someone like you, they watched with silent horror. How could someone they dismissed become someone they now have to watch be celebrated? How could the one they mocked now be seen as sacred? Think of Tyler Perry, who was once homeless and rejected, now owning the largest black-owned film studio in America. He wasn't just spared from poverty, he was chosen to shift an entire industry. And now, you're walking in that same pattern. The blessing over your life is unignorable. They're spiraling in silence because they understand now. They touched what was holy. And the fear isn't about your success, it's about their offense. They didn't just attack a person, they attacked a prophetic assignment. They tried to ruin someone anointed, and the spiritual consequences are setting in. Touch not my anointed ones. Do my prophets no harm. Psalm 105-15. When they opposed you, they thought they were just getting revenge, but now they understand they were waging war against something divine. Look at Joseph in the Bible, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, forgotten in prison until Pharaoh called his name. And when Joseph stood in authority, his brothers trembled, not because Joseph spoke against them, but because God had spoken in his favor. That's where you are now. That trembling they feel, it's divine echo. You didn't ask for this favor, it found you. You didn't manipulate your way here, it was appointed. And now the people who once scoffed at your prayers are watching those prayers become provision. Remember Viola Davis, laughed at for her looks, doubted for her roots, and now an EGOT-winning icon whose authenticity shifts culture. She didn't just make it. She was chosen to redefine the industry, just like you are redefining the very spaces they tried to keep you out of. And now God is confirming you in front of the same crowd that questioned your calling. When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them. Proverbs 16-7. But they're not at peace. They're in spiritual chaos, because you being chosen forces them to face the fact that they were wrong. And the shame? It's growing, not because you spoke out, but because God did. That unexpected breakthrough, that promotion, that connection, that healing, that level up, it was loud in the spirit realm, and they heard it. They no longer have excuses. They can't say maybe anymore, because when heaven makes a move, it silences every lie. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118-22, and chosen one. That cornerstone is you. Now they carry the weight of offending a divine decision, and the louder your favor gets, the heavier their regret becomes. Number 5. They're trapped in the web they built for you. Chosen one. Let's speak plainly. They tried to bury you beneath a web of lies. And now they're choking on the very threads they wove. You were never supposed to escape their manipulation. In fact, they calculated every move, every whisper, every twisted version of your truth to ensure you would be spiritually paralyzed, socially discarded, and emotionally disoriented. But what happens when the trap turns on the one who built it? They used to walk around confident, planting rumors like seeds, smiling as they poisoned people against you. They didn't just lie about you. They lied strategically. Have you ever wondered how they always seemed so calm while everything around you was falling apart? That's because they planned it. They made you look unstable so that when you finally spoke your truth, it would sound like fiction. But what they didn't calculate was the resilience of a chosen one protected by divine fire. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone, it will come back on him. Proverbs 26:27. And now, the pit they dug is their new home. The stone they rolled is crushing their own reputation. The very confusion they spread is swirling back like a tornado. And it's not subtle. Have you noticed how their energy shifted lately? How they suddenly look uncomfortable in the same places they once dominated? That's not guilt, it's divine justice. Let's talk about real life. Look at Harvey Weinstein. For decades, He used his influence to silence victims and manipulate narratives. But one by one, the truth unraveled. Whispers became waves. Eventually, the very system he designed to protect him turned against him. That's what's happening to those who schemed against you. They feel it now. The same isolation they celebrated for you, it's suffocating them. The same spiritual confusion they sowed into your mind, now they're swimming in it, unable to find the surface. Why do you think their voice shakes now? Why do you think their smiles no longer land the same? Because spiritually, they've been found out. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7 said, every manipulation they used has become visible. What was once hidden is now being whispered about them, just like they once did to you. The twist? You never had to retaliate. You never had to scream or prove your innocence. You just stood still, healed, and let your peace speak louder than their poison. Take Meghan Markle. They painted her as the villain in a royal narrative. She was torn apart by media, twisted by whispers, and left out in the cold. But over time, the world began to see through the deception. Her peace, her poise, her refusal to play dirty, all of it exposed. The cracks in the system. That's you now. The quiet storm. The silent truth that's louder than any smear campaign. And what about their tears? This time, they're not for show. They're real. They cry because they feel the weight of their own energy crashing back into their life. The karma is loud, and it doesn't miss. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. Salma v'shalosh shesh. And the web, it's sticky. The more they try to fix it, the worse it gets. Each new excuse exposes a new inconsistency. Each attempt to rewrite the story makes the old lies more obvious. What once sounded clever now sounds desperate. People are waking up. The energy is shifting. Look at Elizabeth Holmes again. For years, she fooled investors, scientists, and even the government. But when the unraveling began, it was unstoppable. She couldn't talk her way out anymore, and neither can your enemies. They are now prisoners of their own performance. The illusion they sold has become the cell they can't escape. And you're walking free, not because you fought back, but because you outgrew the need to. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. Chosen one. Your existence is the evidence, and your silence has become their exposure. Number 6. Your ascension is disrupting their identity. Chosen one. Your growth isn't just personal, it's prophetic. Your healing didn't just happen for you, it's dismantling the illusions others built on your former brokenness. Do you realize that some people didn't just enjoy your pain, they needed it? They weren't comfortable unless you were questioning yourself. Your insecurity was their comfort zone. But now, you've disrupted their delusion, your ascension, the way you walk with peace, the way you speak with clarity, the way you show up with power is shaking their very sense of self. They used to feel bigger, better, more intelligent, more composed, because you were smaller. But now that you've stepped into your true stature, they feel exposed. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. They weren't superior. They were simply standing beside someone who hadn't yet remembered their identity. And now that you've remembered, the game is over. Think of Serena Williams. Critics tried to dismiss her power, discredit her confidence, and redefine her legacy. But her rise her longevity. Her truth redefined the entire sport. She didn't fight for space. She became the standard, just like you. Let's dive deeper. Why are they avoiding you now? Why are they suddenly distant, passive-aggressive, or oddly quiet? Because every room you walk into now holds a mirror to their unhealed parts. You don't even have to say a word. Your presence alone convicts them. Your peace irritates their chaos. Your clarity interrupts their confusion. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm Esrim Vishlosh, Chamesh. And now, they're mourning the version of themselves that only felt enough when you were doubting yourself. Their emotional high depended on your emotional low. But you've broken the cycle. You've changed the dynamic. And they don't know who they are anymore. Take Robert Downey Jr., a man many dismissed, laughed at, and deemed finished. But his return wasn't just a comeback, it was a reinvention. His success confronted every person who defined him by his lowest point. You're doing the same. Your ascension isn't revenge. It's revelation. They don't cry because they miss you. They cry because your strength invalidates the story they told themselves. If you're powerful, they were never the source of truth. If you're favored, then their criticism was empty. That kind of collapse isn't external, it's internal. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in Him, and He helps me. Psalm Esrim Vishmona Sheba. What about your voice? It used to shake. Now it shakes the room. What about your silence? It used to be submission. Now it's sovereignty. What about your presence? It used to be overlooked. Now it's undeniable. They don't know how to exist now that you've stopped shrinking. They can't recognize themselves without your weakness as a mirror. But that mirror is gone. You've replaced it with a window, one that reveals where you're going. And they're not invited. Consider Chadwick Boseman. He lived with grace, worked with power, and ascended in silence. Many never knew his battle, but his presence, his excellence, disrupted every stereotype. That's what you've become. Chosen one. A walking contradiction to their assumptions. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Your new identity didn't just change your life, it changed the room. And while they're mourning the power they once had over you, you're too busy building a legacy they'll never control. So let me ask you this. Was their identity ever real? Or did it only exist in your shadow? Chosen one, your rise is holy, your power is divine, and your presence now announces what they tried to hide. You were never beneath them. They were never above you. You were just in the cocoon, and now you've emerged, and nothing can unsee the wings God gave you. Number 7. They thought time would erase the damage. It didn't. Chosen one. They truly believed that time would bury what they did, that if they stayed quiet long enough, if they smiled wide enough, if they distanced themselves far enough, then the damage they caused you would just disappear like smoke in the wind. Have you ever seen someone who sins against you, then goes silent and waits for the clock to rewrite history? That's exactly what they did. They counted on your silence. They interpreted your healing process as defeat. They thought your withdrawal meant you had no voice left, no strength left, no divine backing left. But God was doing something in the dark that time could not erase. He was preserving the truth. They wanted time to distort your story. God used time to develop your strength. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. For a while, it looked like they had won. You disappeared from certain circles. You stopped defending yourself. You didn't correct the rumors, and in their minds, that was proof that they were right about you. But what they forgot is that God's chosen don't disappear, they get refined. You weren't vanishing, you were transforming. And now your name is rising again. But this time, not as a broken survivor. You are re-emerging as a warrior of light. People are calling your name with reverence. Your reputation is being rebuilt, not through explanations, but through excellence. Isn't it interesting how divine favor has a way of rewriting the lies spoken about you? Consider Brendan Fraser, once shunned by Hollywood after he revealed the truth about abuse. People dismissed him, ignored him, forgot him, but years later, he made a triumphant return, not by shouting, but by walking in quiet dignity. He let time speak, and time, under God's control, became a weapon of vindication. You are now in that same moment. The same people who once whispered behind your back are now being forced to ask, "Wait, what really happened?" That's the sound of divine exposure happening without you lifting a finger. Vengeance is mine, and recompense, their foot shall slip in due time. Deuteronomy 32:35. When they tried to erase you, they underestimated the divine hand on your life. You were never just surviving the pain, they were stacking judgment. They were building a case against themselves every time they lied on your name, twisted your story, or mocked your silence. And now, your life is the loudest courtroom testimony. You didn't need to bring the evidence, your elevation brought it for you. The truth is knocking again. And this time, it's not asking politely. It's showing up through doors you didn't force open, platforms you never applied for, and rooms you didn't have to beg to be in. God placed your name on the tongues of those they can't influence. Look at Monica Lewinsky. For decades, she bore the brunt of a public shame campaign. But time, maturity, and her refusal to fade into silence reshaped her narrative. She is now celebrated as a voice against bullying and digital shame. Her pain didn't disappear, it became purpose, just like yours. Now your return has disrupted their comfort. What they buried is resurfacing. And it's not just memory, it's karmic. The rot they left in your life is now festering in their own. They smell it, they feel it. And the worst part? They know exactly why. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Galatians 6:7. Have you noticed their uneasiness lately? The avoidance, the fidgeting when your name is mentioned, the sudden quiet when your testimony enters the room. That's not respect, that's fear. Fear that their version of the story no longer holds weight. Fear that their illusion is cracking. Fear that the same silence they used to weaponize is now being broken by favor. Your healing is divine proof. Your progress is divine justice. Your glow is a silent announcement. The story they told was false, and I have returned to finish the truth. Lan, take Robert Downey Jr. again. After being cast off and labeled unreliable, he made a full comeback as one of the most respected actors of his generation. The narrative they wrote about him was loud, but purpose was louder. And now, chosen one, your purpose is louder than their lies. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Psalm 37:6. Number 8. Someone powerful is advocating for you, and they know it. Chosen one. You've never been alone. You've never fought this spiritual battle without divine reinforcements, even when it felt like no one was defending you in the natural realm. They thought they held all the power. They believed they could shut every door on your destiny and throw away the key. But what they didn't know was that someone far greater had been watching the whole time, and that someone just stepped in. They once assumed that their title, their status, or their charisma gave them final say over your fate. They thought their influence could erase your opportunity. They thought they were your ceiling. But now they realize they were only ever the floor. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. Proverbs 21. Something has shifted, and it's bigger than you, bigger than them. Someone powerful, maybe a person in authority, maybe a spiritual figure, maybe someone you've never met is now speaking your name in rooms where they once tried to silence you. Your name is being protected. Your reputation is being cleared. Your future is being discussed, and they're not invited. Take the example of Anita Hill. She stood alone, accused of being dramatic, unstable, and too much. But over time, powerful voices began to rise in her defense. Decades later, her name stands as a symbol of truth, and many of her accusers are buried beneath the weight of their own hypocrisy. The same reversal is happening for you. The doors they slammed, they're wide open now, and not just for you to walk through, but to shine a light on the ones who tried to block you. Isn't it divine how the very space they locked has now become your launch pad? Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of Glory may come in. Psalm 24, 7. You're not entering this next season because someone liked you. You're walking through it because someone with spiritual jurisdiction confirmed you. And what's haunting your enemies is that they can't trace where the favor is coming from. It's too big, too fast, too precise to be random. They tried to weaponize their influence to sabotage you, but now someone with greater influence has stood up for you. That shift, that's divine intercession. Think about Keanu Reeves. Quiet, humble, always underestimated, yet he has become one of the most beloved figures in Hollywood. Why? Because people of influence saw something in him that the world overlooked. The right advocate, even in silence, changes everything. Chosen one. You've been divinely endorsed. You're not sneaking into this new season. You're being escorted. The very people who once sat on thrones of false authority are now watching you be ushered into positions they swore you'd never see. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 5:13. Now they're losing control of the story. The people they once influenced are listening to new voices, voices that affirm you, protect you, and celebrate you. Their manipulation is losing power because the truth has a new amplifier, and it's divine. Take Simone Biles. People tried to reduce her greatness, question her strength, dismiss her choices. But then something shifted. Leaders, institutions, and public voices began standing for her. Her narrative didn't just survive, it ascended. That's what's happening for you. Your story isn't being rewritten, it's being elevated. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. The table is already set, and the ones who tried to lock you out are now watching you be served in full view. They know it's not just your time, it's your testimony, and they can't stop it, because someone powerful, more powerful than them, is now on your side. Number 9. They can't re-enter your life, and it's killing them. Chosen one. They thought they could come and go as they pleased, that no matter how many times they betrayed you, ignored your pain, or dismissed your value, you would still be there waiting, open, forgiving, accessible. But something irreversible has shifted. Do you feel it? That quiet sense of completion, that firm decision sealed not by bitterness, but by clarity. They mistook your compassion for permission. They assumed that because you were always loving, always understanding, always giving, they had permanent access to your light. But chosen one, mercy isn't the same as weakness. And what they failed to understand is that unconditional love does not mean unlimited access. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Matthew Sheba, Shesh. Have you ever seen someone mourn a closed door they once laughed at? That's what they're doing now. Your energy has shifted so powerfully that they can feel it like a door closing in slow motion, but this time with no way back in. And it's not because you became heartless. It's because you became wise. Look at Maya Angelou. She once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You believed too many times. You gave too many chances. But no more. The healed version of you isn't entertaining spiritual parasites anymore. The version of you who bled just to keep peace is gone, and they know it." Have you noticed how they're trying to circle back with nostalgia, dropping old jokes, sending fache messages, testing the waters? But you're not water anymore. You're fire, you're boundaries, you're still, you're sovereign. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. They didn't value your heart when it was wide open. Now they want access to something they used to mock. Isn't it wild how people only realize your worth when your energy becomes unavailable? Consider Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They were once dismissed, ridiculed, and even estranged from their own family. But when they took control of their peace, set boundaries, and walked away, they were vilified for doing so. Yet now, they are flourishing. That's you. You left not because you hated them, but because you loved yourself more. So let me ask you, chosen one, how many times did you stay just to keep the peace? How many pieces of yourself did you lose trying to be available for people who were never truly invested? Now they're crying, not because you were cruel, but because you are no longer available to be used. Your silence is deafening, your distance is heavy, and your elevation is humiliating for them because it proves they never had the power they thought they did. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Matthew 5:37. You've said your final no. And this time, there's no foot in the door, no emotional blackmail, no guilt trip, just peace. Look at Taylor Swift. For years, she was criticized for her personal life. People twisted her narrative, mocked her heart, made jokes out of her healing. But instead of chasing down rumors, she drew lines and rebuilt her world. Now she's not just living, she's thriving. And now, your former manipulators are haunted, not by what they did, but by what they lost. Your light, your presence, your love. They see it now, but it's too late. Therefore come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. 2 Corinthians 6:17. You didn't become cold. You became clean. You didn't become selfish. You became sacred. You're no longer a well others can drink from whenever they're thirsty. You are a temple now, and access is by invitation only. They thought the door would always be open. Now they know it's sealed by heaven. Number 10. Your story has become a weapon against their lies. Chosen one. They tried to write your ending. They labored to define you in whispers, to paint your name in shadows, to twist your past into poison. For a while, it looked like they succeeded. But what they didn't realize is that your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. And your story, it wasn't over. It was just being rewritten by God Himself. They never expected you to survive, let alone rise. They assumed the shame they manufactured around your name would be your final curtain. But the very lies they told have become footnotes to your testimony. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. And now your life is the condemnation. You didn't have to clap back. You didn't have to go on a smear campaign. You simply lived, and the truth began to speak louder than their fiction. Look at Malala Yousafzai, shot in the head for seeking education. Her attackers wanted to silence her permanently, but her survival and success made their narrative crumble. Her life became the loudest answer to their bullets. Just like your rise is becoming the loudest answer to their lies. You see, chosen one, God didn't just spare you. He gave you the kind of resurrection that humbles your accusers, that shakes their foundations, that forces people to say, wait, if they lied about that, what else did they lie about? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. What they meant for destruction, heaven flipped into construction. They built a trap. God built a platform. And now the story they tried to hide is trending in your favor. Think of Johnny Depp. After years of career sabotage and character assassination, truth emerged. Not by aggression, but by evidence. The more the lies unraveled, the clearer his redemption became. Now his story speaks louder than the accusations. That's what's happening with you. They're watching as the exact story they used to isolate you is becoming the reason people admire you. Your pain didn't end you, it elevated you. Your scars didn't silence you, they sanctified you. For we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. Your purpose was always greater than their gossip. Your resilience is louder than their rumors. Look at Nelson Mandela. He was labeled a criminal, imprisoned, silenced. But history tells the truth eventually. He rose not just as a survivor, but as a president, a peacemaker, a global icon, and now, chosen one. You're stepping into that same kind of spiritual authority. They can't silence you anymore. Your glow is too real. Your truth is too loud. And your favor is too visible. They're crying now, not because you hurt them, but because your existence exposes their deception. Every door that opens for you reminds them of what they tried to shut down. Every compliment you receive echoes louder than every rumor they spread. Every success you enjoy silences 1,000 lies. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm Ma'avishmuna Asara Asarim Vishtaim. You were the rejected one. Now you are the reference point. The one people mention when they speak of resilience, of grace, of divine comeback. They thought they were the author, but God took the pen. And now, the final chapter is not their accusation, it's your ascension. Number 11. They witnessed a miracle in real time, and it wasn't theirs. Chosen one. Let's call it what it is, a divine reversal. They spent days, months, even years, hoping to see you fall. They plotted in silence, spoke in code, and fasted not for your freedom, but for your downfall. Can you believe that? They actually went before God with bitterness in their hearts, praying against someone he was trying to heal. They thought their religious rituals would override God's will, but what they witnessed instead wasn't your failure, it was your resurrection. And that's what's haunting them. How do you handle watching a miracle unfold and realizing you were on the wrong side of it? That's what they're sitting with now. The bitter taste of unanswered prayers. The silence from heaven. The painful realization that God didn't move in their favor the way they expected. Not because God ignored them, but because God saw something deeper in you. Something clean, something aligned. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 30, Verba 18. You were crushed, broken in ways no one saw. You weren't just hurt, you were hemorrhaging spiritually. And while they were calculating your collapse, you were crying out to heaven with a sincerity they could never manufacture. Do you understand how powerful that is? Your pain had more integrity than their performance. Let's be real, some of them even looked spiritual while they tried to sabotage you. They wore the mask of concern. They quoted scripture, invoked discernment, claimed you were out of alignment. But heaven wasn't fooled. Because heaven doesn't look at performance, it measures the heart. And your heart, though bruised, was still positioned toward God. Look at the story of Hannah and Peninnah. Peninnah mocked Hannah, taunted her for being barren, and assumed she was the favored one because she had children. But God had something else in mind. In secret, Hannah cried. She wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to impress. She was just honest. And God responded to her, not to the one with outward abundance, but to the one with inner purity. That's what happened with you. You didn't perform. You poured out. And heaven took notice. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Achat Samuel, 6:7. Totod. They thought God would side with them because they had titles, because they had the crowd, because they looked the part. But chosen one, God doesn't anoint performance. He anoints obedience. And your obedience in grief, in silence, in betrayal, is what shifted the heavens in your favor. Think about Nelson Mandela. While his enemies plotted his destruction from the outside, he was being refined in isolation. They expected to break him, but instead, the longer they watched, the more powerful he became. By the time he emerged, the very system that tried to crush him had to hand him the crown. That's the miracle they just witnessed in you. The power they tried to stop is now too visible to deny. And now, they're in a spiritual crisis, because in their minds, your success doesn't make sense. How could someone they opposed so fiercely be the one God chose to elevate? How could the one they warned others about now be walking in open doors, blessings, clarity, and peace? You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. And that's exactly what's happening. God didn't just lift you. He made sure they saw it. Not to mock them, but to expose what was real. Your miracle isn't just about favor, it's about truth. It's a divine mirror, reflecting their intentions, exposing their jealousy, and dismantling their self-righteousness. Ask yourself, why are they so quiet now? Why have the posts stopped? The group chat's gone silent. The fake concern disappeared because the miracle proved them wrong and they can't spin it anymore. Your very existence has become the evidence they hoped would never surface. Think of Robert Downey Jr. Shunna, ridiculed, counted out. But when his restoration came, it was undeniable. He didn't just make a comeback, he redefined greatness. His redemption humbled the industry. And your story is doing the same in your spiritual circle. They're witnessing a glow-up that sermons can't explain, that fasting couldn't block, and that gossip can't reverse. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Psalm Sheloshim V'Sheba Sheba. You waited while they schemed. You healed while they postured. You prayed while they tried to destroy you socially. God rebuilt you spiritually. And now that structure is rising for all to see. Here's the twist that's eating them alive. They believed they were on God's side. They thought you were the villain in their narrative. But now that the outcome is clear, your peace, your elevation, your fruit, it's making them question everything. And that's good, because maybe, just maybe, it will lead them to repentance. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:40. You see, chosen one, your job isn't to gloat. Your job is to remain focused. Because this miracle wasn't just for you, it was a message, a holy reminder that no one can curse what God has blessed, that no amount of plotting can cancel a divine promise, and that when your heart is clean, even your enemies become witnesses to your breakthrough. Let's talk about Simone Biles. When she stepped away from the Olympics to protect her mental health, critics swarmed in, but she didn't explain. She didn't justify. She centered herself in truth. And what happened? Global respect. Her story became a movement. That's you now. The miracle is not just that you rose, but that you rose without needing revenge. And that's the part they can't comprehend. You didn't fight back the way they expected. You didn't collapse. You didn't get bitter. You got better. And that's what makes it undeniably God. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 5:13. Now they sit in silence, grappling with a reality they didn't prepare for. God picked you, not them. Not because you were perfect, but because you were pure. Not because you were loud, but because you were low. And now, you're high, chosen one. This miracle they witnessed was never meant to hurt them, but to humble them. Maybe, if they pay attention, it can transform them too. But that's not your responsibility. Yours is to keep rising, keep glowing, and keep walking in the favor they thought they could stop. Because the miracle wasn't theirs, it was yours. And heaven made sure they saw every second of it. Number 12. They're haunted by the memory of who you were and who you are now. Chosen one. There's something they'll never admit out loud, but it keeps them up at night. They remember who you used to be. They remember the soft-spoken version of you, the one who tiptoed around conflict, the one who over-explained to people who were never listening, the you who handed out second chances like candy, even when you were bleeding inside. You wanted peace so badly, you sacrificed yourself on the altar of someone else's comfort. You didn't just give grace, you gave yourself away. And now, you've become someone they no longer recognize, and that fact is haunting them more than anything else. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. 1 Corinthians 13:11. They mistook your softness for submission. They confused your gentleness with ignorance. They assumed your compassion came from weakness, not wisdom. And because of that, they took advantage of your openness. They played with your emotions. They tested how far they could push, how long you would stay, how much you would swallow. And you still learning your worth. Allowed it. Not because you didn't see the red flags, but because you believed love could transform them. But chosen one, love without truth, is just spiritual slavery, and you've been set free. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how certain people flinch now when they speak to you? How they hesitate when they once demanded? How they look into your eyes and realize there's something there they can't manipulate anymore? That's not intimidation. That's transformation. Look at the life of Eleanor Roosevelt. In her early years, she was timid, often overshadowed by stronger personalities, but life through hardship, grief, and betrayal chiseled her into a woman of deep conviction and immovable power. She didn't become bitter, she became bold. Just like you. You're not the same, and they feel it. Your movements are slower now, but intentional. Your words are fewer, but sharper. Your silence is no longer submission, it's sovereignty. The room shifts when you walk in, not because you're loud, but because you're finally aligned. The righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. And that boldness, it wasn't gifted, it was forged. Through nights of crying when no one knew. Through betrayals you never got apologies for. Through spiritual war zones you had to walk through alone. Every scar became armor. Every loss became instruction. Every closed door became redirection. What's wrecking them is this. They lost access not because you became cruel, but because you became conscious. You saw the pattern. You recognized the manipulation, and then you did the most dangerous thing a chosen one can ever do. You stopped explaining yourself. That's when the haunting began. Because when you were still trying to fix things, they had the upper hand. When you kept showing up with your heart on your sleeve, they held control. But now, they're dealing with a version of you that doesn't bleed the same. You love, yes, but you love from a healed place. And healed people are harder to fool. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Take the example of Malcolm X. Once a misguided youth, manipulated and discarded by systems and people alike. But when he awakened, when his mind, body, and spirit aligned, he became a force that even his enemies respected. He didn't just change his appearance, he changed the spiritual temperature of every room he entered. That's what your evolution has done. Have you felt it? That subtle distance from people who once loved you. It's not that you've become distant. It's that your elevation exposed the shallowness of their attachment. They didn't love the real you. They loved the version of you they could control. And that version is gone. Behold, I have given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. Luke 10:19. They can't reach you anymore. Not emotionally, not spiritually. The energy they use to drain from you now bounces off your boundary, and it confuses them because they remember when you used to chase, when you used to apologize for being misunderstood, when you used to shrink so they could shine. But now, you shine regardless. They're haunted by memories of the you who begged for clarity, who cried over rejection, who broke into pieces just to be chosen. That memory is their ghost because it reminds them of what they abused and what they can never get back. Think of Britney Spears, once controlled, manipulated, and silenced even by those closest to her. But when she finally spoke out and took her power back, the world didn't see a pop star. They saw a woman reborn. That's what people see when they look at you now. A rebirth, a boundary, a miracle in motion. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him. who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Even the worst of what you went through is now being used as fuel. The same wounds they inflicted, they're now closed and glowing. Your scars have become scripture. Your life has become testimony. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. And that is the most painful part for them. Because if this version of you had existed when they first met you, they never would have gotten close. And that's the truth they can't escape. Look at Viola Davis. Early in her career, she was typecast, underestimated, offered roles far beneath her brilliance. But she didn't lash out. She evolved. She trained. She healed. And now, she commands rooms with quiet force. Her presence speaks louder than her past ever could. You're walking in that same anointing. And now, all they have are memories. Memories of a gentle soul they mishandled. Memories of a kind heart they manipulated. Memories of a light they tried to dim. But those memories are no longer comforting, they're tormenting. Because now, when they see you, they don't just see who you are, they see who they can never touch again. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28:7. You've become unreachable, not because you built walls, but because you learned how to build gates. With locks, with discernment, with divine permission required for entry, and the key they once had, it no longer fits. Number 13. They're seeing their own darkness through your light. Chosen one. You didn't set out to expose them. You didn't raise your hand to be the mirror. You were simply trying to heal, to rise, to find peace in the middle of chaos. But what you didn't realize is that your transformation wasn't just about you, it became a spotlight, a spiritual flashlight in a room full of secrets. And the moment you stepped fully into your light, something began to happen. Their shadows got louder. They're not bothered because you're boastful. You've never gloated. You've never rubbed your growth in anyone's face. That's not your nature. But the very act of becoming whole, of living in truth, all of walking in clarity, is now confronting them in ways they can't unsee. And the reason it hurts them so deeply is because deep down, they know you were in the same darkness they were. But you didn't stay there. For nothing is hidden that will not become evident, nor anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. Why is it that some people were so comfortable when you were hurting, but suddenly restless now that you're healed? Why do your victories make them anxious? Why does your peace seem to make their soul tremble? It's because your elevation isn't just a win, it's a reflection of every choice they didn't make, every truth they refused to face, every healing opportunity they ignored. And now, when they see you, they see what they could have been. They remember the version of you they used to feel superior to, the one who struggled, doubted, over-explained, and tried to fix everything. That version made them feel powerful. But now, you no longer play small. You no longer seek validation. You no longer shrink for their comfort. And it's wrecking them, just like Saul was tormented by David's presence, not because David was attacking him, but because David's anointing reminded Saul of everything he had lost. You now walk like a modern-day David. Your light doesn't provoke through words. It convicts through being. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 8:5. And it's not just conviction. They're haunted by the realization that their inner world is crumbling while yours is blooming. They feel it in the way people talk about you now, in the way you command respect without trying, in the way you carry peace while they carry tension. You've become a living, breathing contradiction to the stories they told. Look at Prince. In the early years, he was misunderstood, underestimated, and even mocked for his spiritual discipline and artistic genius. But the longer he stayed true to himself, the more uncomfortable his presence made others, because his authenticity exposed their conformity. His brilliance was never about being flashy, it was about being real. That's what your light is doing now. Not just glowing, but revealing. Let me ask you this. Have you felt certain people avoiding your gaze lately? Not because they fear you, but because your eyes carry too much truth. Have you noticed how conversations get weirdly quiet when you walk into a room? That's not paranoia. That's spiritual presence. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. Your light is a sign that something divine is happening, and they can't fake alignment anymore. It's not about you being better than them. It's about you being braver. While they projected, you processed. While they blamed, you built. While they stayed stuck in denial, you got honest with your wounds and let God turn them into wisdom. Take the story of Maya Moore, a basketball superstar who left her career at its peak to pursue justice for a wrongfully imprisoned man. Many mocked her decision, but when the truth came out and her mission succeeded, she returned, not just as an athlete, but as a force of justice. Her stand exposed others' passivity. Just like your rise is exposing others' stagnation, they're haunted. Not just by what you've become, but by who they've remained. And it gets worse for them. Because now, your growth isn't just an inspiration, it's accountability. You didn't just get blessed, you evolved. You put in the work. You cried the prayers. You faced the mirror. You didn't bypass the pain, you processed it until it became purpose. That's what they don't want to acknowledge. Because if they did, they'd have to admit they had the same chance and they wasted it. Examine yourselves. To see whether you are in the faith, test yourselves. 2 Corinthians 13-5. Now they sit in silence, haunted by the fact that the enlightened one wasn't them, that the spiritually mature one wasn't the loudest voice, but the quiet one who healed in secret. You. Take the story of Misty Copeland. She was doubted, dismissed, and told she'd never succeed in classical ballet. But her discipline, her resilience, her undeniable presence shattered every stereotype. And when she walked into the spotlight, many who rejected her had to acknowledge the light never lied. It was always there. They just weren't ready for it. That's what's happening with you. You were always gifted, always anointed, always divinely set apart, but your glow was inconvenient to their ego, so they tried to dim it. Now it's undeniable, and it's confronting them. But all things become visible when they are exposed by the light. For everything that becomes visible is light. Ephesians 5:13. And the most painful part for them, they've dimmed. That charisma they used to carry, it's hollow now. That spiritual insight they once boasted, it's not landing like it used to. Their words are empty. Their energy is off. And they know why. Because your light has become the standard. They can no longer hide behind vague wisdom, fake humility, or selective spirituality. Not when you walk in with a peace that they can't imitate. Your presence isn't loud, but it's thunderous in the spirit. You don't need to expose them. They unravel all on their own when they're around you. Think of Chadwick Boseman. He lived and worked with quiet integrity, radiating excellence, even in secret battles. And when the world discovered what he carried, not just talent, but soul, honor, and power, it shook people to their core. His legacy exposed the emptiness of many louder voices. Just like your walk is now redefining who's really who, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew Chamesh, Shesh Isra, chosen one. Your light is not just for you. It's heaven's way of disrupting comfort zones, breaking false narratives, and calling people back to truth. You are not arrogant. You are awakened. You are not attacking. You are aligned. And they see it. They feel it. They fear it. Not because you're dangerous, but because your light makes their darkness undeniable. And that, more than anything, is what haunts them. Number 14. What just happened proved you were the threat all along. Chosen one. You need to hear this in your spirit. What just unfolded didn't just change perception, it shattered a false reality. You weren't just vindicated, you were revealed, and not as the problem, but as the presence that always carried power. What just happened didn't whisper, it roared. It made it impossible for anyone to keep pretending, because now the mask has fallen, and the truth is, walking upright in every room, your name enters. For years, they labored to control the narrative. They orchestrated whispers like symphonies of deception. They wore the cloak of the victim while subtly positioning you as unstable, overly emotional, bitter, or broken behind closed doors. They played puppeteer with your reputation, twisting timelines, manipulating memories, making sure that by the time your name came up, their version had already taken root. But what happens when truth grows legs? For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18. That's what they never anticipated. That truth wouldn't just stay buried under rumors, it would rise. Just like you did. And now, something undeniable has happened. Maybe it was a platform you didn't seek that highlighted your integrity. Maybe it was a divine opportunity that exposed your brilliance. Maybe it was your peace in public, your glow, your clarity, whatever it was. It tore through their illusions like lightning through a cloudy sky. And people noticed. They're not just watching anymore, they're questioning. And the question that haunts your enemies the most is the one they hoped would never be asked. Wait, were they the problem all along? Because once that question is asked, the whole script begins to unravel. People who used to nod in agreement with your accusers are now remembering odd details. They're replaying conversations, observing patterns, and silently connecting the dots. And the story that once protected your enemies now looks like fiction. That's not coincidence. That's divine justice. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. Proverbs 11:3. Let's talk truth. Your rise wasn't random. It was inevitable. You were always chosen, always marked. But they saw your potential and mistook it as a threat to their control. They didn't want to share space with your insight. They didn't want to be seen beside your discernment. So the only way they could stay on top was by painting you as the bottom, the one to blame, the unstable one, but chosen one. They didn't realize that trying to bury a seed only causes it to grow. Look at Oprah Winfrey. When she began her career, she was told she was too emotional for news. She was criticized for her compassion and transparency. But in time, the very traits they used to reject her became the foundation of an empire. The same is happening with you. They tried to make your sensitivity seem like instability, your spiritual clarity like confusion. But now, the world is seeing what you always were anointed. Have you noticed how quiet they've become? How their circle has shrunk? How the same people who once fed off the drama have fallen silent or shifted their allegiance? That's not shade, that's consequence. Because truth doesn't need your permission to reveal itself. And the same people who once dragged your name are now wrestling with the evidence of your favor. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. They're not crying because you're winning. They're crying because their lies are crumbling, because your elevation has become a mirror to their manipulation, and mirrors don't lie. You don't even have to tell your side anymore. Your peace, your progress, your posture, it's speaking volumes. Think about Tyler Perry. Rejected, misunderstood, lied on. He didn't clap back with interviews or Twitter threads. He built, he stayed focused, and eventually, his story silenced every critic without a single word of revenge. That's your story. You didn't retaliate, you resurrected. Let me ask you this. How many times did you feel like giving up, not because you weren't strong, but because you were tired of being misunderstood? How many times did you cry to God and ask, why are they getting away with this? And yet now, you see it clearly. God was never late. He was preparing your unveiling. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Psalm 8:9. Your life is doing the talking now. And every lie spoken against you is becoming a reference point for your redemption. You're not just walking in purpose, you're walking in prophecy. This is the moment heaven ordained to turn the tables. They're panicking now because they know they can't spin it anymore. The same eyes that once watched for your downfall are now blinded by your rise. The same mouths that mocked you now sit in silence. And the same people who said they'll never recover are now forced to admit you did more than recover. You transformed. Think of Nelson Mandela again. He didn't just survive prison. He came out and dismantled the very system that tried to erase him. He didn't scream. He didn't seek revenge. He carried vision. That's what you carry. Not just favor, but divine vision. And that's what undoes everything they built on your name. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. And this time, it's not just their lies falling apart, it's their identity. Because who are they now? If you're not the villain, what happens to their ego, their influence, their authority? When the person they worked so hard to discredit becomes the very example of grace and power, it's not just embarrassment they feel, it's collapse. And let's be honest, they never thought you'd make it this far. They planned your end. They laughed at your silence. They told others you were finished. But heaven wrote a different ending, one where you don't just survive, you become the standard. Take Meghan Markle, vilified, smeared, and silenced. But she chose dignity over drama. She let life speak for her. And now, the very media that once destroyed her narrative is being held accountable. Her story flipped because truth doesn't stay buried forever, and neither did yours. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Psalm 34:9. Chosen one. Hear this. You were never the unstable one. You were the storm they feared, the clarity they couldn't control, the truth they tried to rewrite. And now, everything they built is collapsing, not because you forced it, but because divine timing never misses. What just happened didn't just clear your name, it confirmed your calling. You are not here by chance. You are the miracle they hoped wouldn't manifest, the light they tried to dim, and now they're sitting in the ruins of their strategy, realizing they underestimated not just you, but the God who defends you. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need a rebuttal. You didn't need validation from people who once misjudged you. God did it for you loudly, publicly, undeniably, and now they sit in rooms they once controlled, haunted by the one thing they never wanted to face, the truth. Beloved, chosen one, if this message struck something deep within you, if it stirred a memory, exposed a wound, or confirmed something your spirit already knew, don't keep it to yourself. Let the ripple of truth start with you. Someone out there is still questioning their value, still trapped in silence, still living beneath the weight of lies spoken over them. You could be the bridge between their confusion and their clarity. Share this message. Be the vessel. You never know who might need to hear what you just received. Drop a comment below and let me know what resonated most with your soul. What line echoed in your heart long after the words ended? What truth felt like it was written with your name on it? Don't hold it in, let it out. This is a space where the chosen speak freely, where your voice matters, and your story is sacred. If you felt a divine confirmation settle into your bones, if the Spirit nudged you while listening, hit that like button, not just as a sign of support, but as a declaration that you are aligned with what God is doing here. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on your notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next. What we're building together isn't just another channel or passing word. This is a sanctuary for the chosen, the misunderstood, the misjudged, and the rising. This is where spiritual warriors gather not to perform, but to heal, to grow, and to prepare for the places God is sending us. You're not here by accident. You belong here. You are part of something sacred. And this is just the beginning. To every person who has sown into this mission through Super Thanks, thank you from the depths of my heart. Your giving is not just generous, it's prophetic. You've helped expand the reach of this word so it can find more souls, more seekers, more chosen ones in hiding. Your support means more than you know. And for those who haven't given financially but still show up, listen and share. Please know, your presence is just as powerful. You are just as valued. You are just as loved, whether you give with your heart, your time, your energy, or your seed. This space is better because you're in it. Every gesture, no matter how small, is received with gratitude. No pressure, no performance, just love. Always. Now let me speak this blessing over you. May God go before you this week and make the crooked paths straight. May every lie spoken against you fall powerless to the ground. May peace flood your home and strength rise in your bones. May you walk into every room with your head high, your soul anchored, and your spirit unshaken. May divine justice continue to speak on your behalf, even when you say nothing. And may the glow on your life be so evident, so holy, that even your enemies can't deny it. You were never forgotten. You were being refined. You are not just rising. You are being revealed. So take a breath. Chosen one, you've come so far, and what's ahead is even greater. Keep healing. Keep elevating. Keep showing the world what favor really looks like. God bless you richly, deeply, and unapologetically, and I'll see you in the next word.